You're listening to the Life Friendly Business Podcast. I'm your host, Erin Thomas Wong, business mentor, author, and founder of the Cocoon VIP membership, empowering women around the world to build businesses on their terms. If you want to grow and scale a business that works in harmony with your family and your life, this podcast is for you. On the podcast today, I'm speaking to Louise Brogan, a LinkedIn consultant, host of the LinkedIn with Louise podcast, and international speaker. Louise loves working with entrepreneurs and business owners who want to leverage LinkedIn but don't really know where to start. On the show today, she explains how she's been able to build a super life-friendly business on her own terms. Hello, Louise, and welcome to the Life Friendly Business Podcast.
Hi, Erin. This is so exciting. I'm so happy that you have started this podcast.
Thank you very much. And thank you for inspiring me with your own as well. Let's start off by talking about what inspired you to start your own business.
Oh my gosh. How long have we got, Erin?
Half an hour.
So a couple of different factors all came into play around the same time. My first business, I really started. So my first business was a craft business, selling craft supplies, doing local card making classes, and then I eventually opened a shop. But that really came about in a culmination of time. My dad passed away when my first baby was 5 weeks old. And that combination of events, just anyone who's lost a parent will get this. You really look at your life and what you're doing and think about what you're doing. And is this what you want to be doing? It's a massive shift. And I started my craft shop business. It was online, first of all, selling on eBay and then on a website. When I was on maternity leave, because I'm that kind of person, I can't sit and navel gaze. Obviously a term I never use. I just need to be thinking about things all the time. It's how my brain works. And I started that business, and I think the effects of my dad dying so young, he's only 59. I kind of threw my life up in the air almost. I ended up opening a bricks and mortar shop when my third baby was 3 months old, which was just, when I look back now, I was completely crazy. And all of those things I attribute to losing my dad whenever my baby was so young. But I basically, by the time I had 3 children, 5 and under, a shop, and was working part-time in the health service as an IT project manager. So not like a job where you didn't have to think. Quite a intense part-time job. And the craft shop business didn't actually make me any money, and it took an external person, probably my first experience of being coached by somebody, to kind of go, Louise, this business, you're literally running yourself into the ground, but you're not really paying yourself anything. And that is where my social media business came from. She said, you seem to know what you're doing on Facebook. Why don't you teach other people how to do that too? And that's where it all came from. That's where it started. And I got to, I quit my job after my business was called Social BNI, as in Buzzy Bee, creating a buzz about your business. That was my tagline. And I quit my job 2 years after that. I closed the shop pretty much within a month of her talking to me. And I started Social BNI. And 2 years after that, I left my IT job and went out on my own. Terrifying, that all of those things people think about, leaping off a cliff into the unknown, building your parachute on the way down. But gosh, I've never regretted a second of it.
That's such an incredible story, and the idea of having 3 kids, full stop, is a lot. And opening a shop when you have a 3-month-old, when this podcast is all about running a life-friendly business. I imagine that things didn't feel that life-friendly at that point in your life.
No, definitely not, Erin. And how that manifested itself, if you like, was it was stressful. I was dropping the two younger ones at nursery. My mum was taking the baby. I was going to my job. I was leaving the job at lunchtime, picking up from nursery on the way home, collecting my youngest. 2 days of the week, I was going straight to the shop. My mum was just holding the fort. I don't know how she did it all as well. And the other days of the week, I employed two older ladies who I knew through our local community who were brilliant. And they managed the shop for me. But it was really funny. So anyone who's listening, who's a business owner who employs staff, don't employ people because they're really lovely. Employ people who know what they're doing. I learned so much in that first business. And they were lovely, lovely women, but they didn't know how to sell ice to the Eskimos. So they very rarely got any sales for me. I mean, the whole thing, when I look back now, was chaotic. So it wasn't life friendly. It was a reaction. It was definitely, I know now, it was a reaction to my dad passing and me wanting to do something and not taking time to think about what could I do that would bring money in and give me a life-friendly business, which is exactly what I have now. So it was a reactionary business as opposed to let's sit down and think about what I want my life to look like. I would say.
Yeah. I think one thing though about, as kind of takeaway from your story is the fact that when you start a business, you're not always sure right at the beginning what that business is going to be. And we have to go through this kind of journey of exploring and often we only know what we know. And you might never have thought about running a social media business if you hadn't have run that shop and had that conversation with the external person.
Absolutely.
And I think, that's where sometimes something that can really stop people is this fear of failure in the business. But actually, we learn lessons. And, with me, I've had multiple businesses and I've learned something, well, more than one thing from each of those businesses and been able to build the business that is absolutely right for me. And it sounds like that's what your experience has helped you to do as well.
Yes. And I will say that was 11 years ago I opened that shop. So this has been a long time coming. But I would say my business as it is now, oh my gosh, it's completely different even to how it was 3 or 4 years ago. And I attribute that completely to investing in coaching and support. Talk about turning things around. Having someone who's been there, done that, has the experience and can help and mentor you and advise you is so invaluable. And I think starting out in business, you've no idea about that. When I had that craft shop and so if someone had said to me, you should hire a coach, I would have looked at them in horror. I'm not even paying myself. How can I afford a coach? But actually the coaching came from the mentor that the council provided for me as a local business support service. And I think with the social media business, I was trundling along at it, figuring out things as I went. And when you're in a digital business, it's actually, you get to the point of hiring someone to help you in terms of coaching, I guess, much quicker because you see it everywhere. And I remember paying for programs. And each time I did, I was terrified about the amount of money it would cost me. But it always worked and it always made an impact on what I was doing, which was brilliant to the point where now I'm paying a monthly amount of money, and I have been for a year and a half, that most people starting out would be horrified at. But it's just made my business grow in leaps and bounds because of it.
I think that is a real mindset shift as well, where people feel like you said, I'm not paying myself or I'm hardly paying myself. I'll do that. I'll get a coach when I'm earning more money. But the reality is that sometimes you need to make that investment first.
Yes.
Which is an investment in yourself, which is scary.
But also there's a lot of sharks out there, and there's a lot of people who have been in business 3 months and set themselves up as a coach because they think they know how to teach somebody else how to build a business online. And a lot of people get their fingers burnt. I've seen it multiple times. There are people who spend a lot of money on advertising their coaching services and pretending that they are amazing at what they do. But if you lift the lid and look underneath, it's not all roses, and people get their fingers burnt. They spend a lot of money on that kind of stuff, and it gets them nowhere. And those messages get out to other people as well. So I would be very cautious. If you're choosing someone to help you, go and absorb, take in all their free content first. Like if somebody wants to hire me to work with them on LinkedIn, which is what I do now, I purely do LinkedIn coaching, consulting. I would, and if they've never met me before, I would say, go and listen to my podcast, go and watch my YouTube videos, go and read my blog. There's so much on all of those channels that will help you on LinkedIn. And then if you want to invest in working with me, let's talk, because it's really funny. I'm going to put down a bit of a side path here. Somebody messaged me on Instagram and said, you said in your podcast you've lots of free resources. Where are they? I can't find them. And I was like, okay, you're a charmer, aren't you? I said, they're on my website. There's lots of free blogs on my website teaching how to do things. She came back to me and says, I can't find them. And I thought, I'm not even going to bother replying to you.
Yeah. I think, there are so many messages online now, like you say, about people selling seemingly quick wins of how to make 6 figures, how to make 7 figures. And there's lots of stuff that goes into that, in episode 3, when I talked about how you measure success, it's that whole thing as well, that for a lot of women that I mentor, it's not just about the financial income that their business is making. They're measuring success by the impact and by how flexible they can be. And yet all these messages make a lot of us feel like, we're not achieving enough, or we're not aspiring high enough. And I think we do have to be really careful not to get sucked into that world.
Mm-hmm. I agree. One of the things, so I have a new assistant. I had the lovely Carly, who
wonderful
left me.
Carly.
I love Carly. She left me. Carly, if you're listening, can't believe you left me. She knows I'm joking. But anyway, so Carly was my assistant, and I have a new assistant now, and she has blocked out on my calendar that you cannot book anything with me between 2:30 and 3:30 any day of the week, because that's when my youngest child gets out of school. And I want to be able to either walk down the road to meet him on his bike or drive to school to pick up his musical instrument. But I don't want anyone booking in my diary for that. And I've now got to a stage where you can't book any appointments with me on a Friday. So this Friday is my birthday, and I have booked, I have vouchers left over from Christmas and birthdays, because we couldn't do anything with these lovely spa vouchers. I'm going off to have a massage this Friday morning, and I can't wait.
Amazing.
But other Fridays, it's going to be, I'll use that time to, just tidy up bits and pieces in my business in the morning, and hopefully go out and meet somebody for lunch or for coffee.
Brilliant.
Kids are at school. That's what it's about, isn't it?
It is. And, I'm exactly the same. On Fridays, I don't have calls unless there's an emergency. That's my day. It's kind of like having that buffer to the week, so that I'm not just, spinning the wheels right until the end when I have to pick the kids up on a Friday afternoon. It's like Friday, that is space for me to either finish off stuff that I need to do, or go out and, like you say, have coffee with a friend, go and have a massage, whatever I want. So this leads into my next question, really, is kind of, how does your week look like on a day-to-day basis? how many hours are you working and how's that structured?
Okay, so I will start off by saying my husband just laughs at me because I'm kind of, he's like, how are you earning this money? And like, you're just dandering about the house. But I don't. So it's really funny. The coaching team, I suppose it's a team because there's two of them that I work with. They're like, Louise, you've been talking about putting in your ideal week for so long. Like maybe that just isn't something that you want to do. So how I work with clients, Erin, is they're all online. So this morning I did a 90-minute workshop for a local council, a LinkedIn workshop. This evening at 5 p.m, I'm doing a webinar for a European women's group. So I do work funny hours for other people, but that's because my kids are older. So my kids are 11, 13 and 15. When they were younger, I don't think I could have done this way. I would have not been able to work at all between 2:30 and say 8 p.m. So actually in the early days, I would have been scrambling around doing like emails in the evening or maybe just little bits of client work in the evening. I don't have to do that anymore. But it's, you choose. If you want to work for yourself, you have to make choices like that. But at the moment, so what I do in the morning, I like to get out for a walk with the dog when I haven't got a foot issue, which I do at the minute. I probably am sitting down at my desk by about 9:30. If I don't have workshops or client calls booked in the morning, I would be either creating blogs, podcast, or video content for my YouTube channel. I prefer not to have more than 2 client calls in a day. And a client call for me, yesterday I did one of my VIP clients. That's a 3-hour session. So if I have one other 1-hour call in that day, that's enough because it's you can exhaust yourself trying to be on all the time. I always stop for lunch. I always take a break away from the computer. Like I don't sit through lunch and I like to eat. I'm not a person who goes without food. But like today, I'm going out for a coffee with my husband after we finish this podcast. So I have lots of flexibility. If I need to go and take the dog to the vets, I can. If I have to run something up to the other 2's school, which is in Belfast, because they've forgotten something, I can. So I don't have like a 9 to 5 hour by hour breakdown on my calendar. I tend to like to do, like I said, 2 in-person Zoom calls a day. At a push, I'll do 3. Now, some of those calls could be a 15-minute discovery call, and that's fine. But I have been caught out in the past because I haven't looked after my calendar properly, or I haven't asked my assistant to do that properly, where I might have been doing a 3-hour call starting at 5 p.m. on a Friday.
Oh,
now that's with American clients. So for them, it's like, 10 a.m. on a Friday morning. And when they realize it's 5 p.m. on Friday night for me, they're like, what? Why are you working? And I'm like, that was my fault because I didn't block out my calendar. So I'm in business. I've been in this business for 8 years. And it's only now that I have the wherewithal to go, Louise, you don't have to say yes to somebody just because they want to work on a Friday at 5 p.m. in the UK, which is 10 a.m. on the West Coast of America. Just because 10 a.m. on Friday morning is the time that suits them, they can wait and work with you next week on a time that suits you better. That is, you're always learning, Erin. I'm sure you're the same. You're always learning new things and bringing in new techniques to help you manage stuff. But basically, client calls, emails, I always have a podcast out each week. I spend time on LinkedIn, but not as much time as people think I spend. It's kind of interesting to me. I rarely go on there at the weekends. I would say I check it in the morning. I maybe create a post. Like I've got a post today that's going gangbusters. So I will be checking it after lunch and commenting on it. But I don't spend all day on there like other people. I know some people say you have to spend like 4 hours a day on LinkedIn to make it work. I'm like, no, you do not. I like my life. I could be 3 times as busy, but my stress levels would be through the roof, and I'd be reaching for the wine bottle on a Wednesday night instead of waiting till the weekend. So there's life friendly and there's health friendly business as well.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you do seem to have such a good balance and fantastic boundaries, and you're running a really successful business, and yet you're able to make those decisions and say, I want to be around when my kids get home from school, and I want to be able to go and have coffee with my husband. And I think as well, something to say here as well is that same with me, that we've been in business for quite a while now, and it takes time, and you make mistakes, and you get to the point of burnout because you realize that you haven't been looking after your calendar properly, or you've been, saying yes to things that you shouldn't have. And so if there are people out there listening thinking that sounds way too good to be true, I can't do it, like, don't beat yourself up because you're not there yet. What I want you to take away from this conversation is that it is absolutely possible to have that balance.
Yes.
And you need to decide what's important to you.
One of the key things there, and the game changer for me was starting to raise my prices, because in the early days, a lot of my work came through council programs, and you would get paid maybe £30 an hour or something. And you have to do a lot of hours at that rate to replace the salary that a lot of women start businesses who have had a career and a profession. Not everybody, but a lot do. And you look at the salary that you used to earn and you think, I'm never in a million years going to get near that by charging this amount of money. And people think, oh, £30 an hour, that's amazing, Louise. But you're not doing 40 hours a week. You're not getting paid 20 hours a week, even at that rate. And that can be really heart-wrenching when you look at the end of the month and you look at all the hours you've worked and you divide up how much you've earned by the hours you've worked, and you think, oh my God, I'd be better off working in Tesco's or Asda. And that's heartbreaking. So one of the best advice I ever got was start raising your prices, especially when you've been doing this for a while. And if you've worked with 5 clients, time to raise your prices a little bit. You've worked with another 10 clients, bump your prices up. Keep raising your prices until people start saying they don't want to work with you, and have confidence in yourself. That's the biggest thing. If someone says to you, how much is it going to cost you, Louise, to create my social media images for a month? How much is it going to cost you per month? You tell them what's going to cost and then close your mouth. Don't say, is that okay? Or I can negotiate that with you. Or does that sound reasonable? No. Say how much it costs and then just be quiet and let them take it in and see what they say.
I think that's something that so many people struggle with. And would you say that you have got to that point now because of all the investment you've made in your own personal development and your own confidence in business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Erin, my biggest ticket item that I sell, and my prices are in dollars because I would say 90% was American, but it's probably about 80% now. So I'm getting quite a bit of company work in the UK now, which is lovely, especially because it means you can work in the mornings. I not wait for the Americans to get up. But my biggest price ticket thing that I sell at the minute is called a LinkedIn VIP session, and it's $1,500. And when I launched that last August, so we are talking in June, when I launched it in August, it was $800. So I've almost doubled it in price. And people keep buying it because this is another thing. When you niche down to a particular topic or area and focus on getting known for that, people want to work with you. And if you're listening to this thinking, oh my God, that's a crazy price, people pay it and they get way more than the value of it, because I teach them how to go out there and get hired for things that they charge multiple thousands for. So but yes, it's taken me a long time to get to the confidence in my pricing. Absolutely. I remember going to an event in Dublin and another marketer from Northern Ireland telling me with great authority that I would never be able to charge more than £300 for a full day, which is a 7-hour day, really. And I'm not the kind of person to go around going, nah, 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 nah. And I don't know if she's any idea what I charge now. And I would never say it to her. Never let somebody else tell you what you can or can't charge. People will pay. If people pay your prices, you can charge it. And if you get to us, like if I put this up to $2,000 and nobody bought it, then I would know $1,500 was my tipping point.
Yeah. And it's about being brave enough to try it and just see what happens.
Well, it's also the fact that it's having a service or a product that you believe in as well. So anybody who buys that service, and you look at the recommendations on my LinkedIn profile, they love it. So that's what I'm talking about. There's snake oil out there. There's people who might say, okay, I'm going to teach you how to be a coach and you're going to be able to charge people £1,000 a month for your coaching services when we finish this 6-week course. Well, of course, you're not going to be able to charge £1,000 a month after doing something for 6 weeks. But if you do it for 6 weeks and start out and get a couple of clients and do a brilliant job, and then get a couple more clients and do a brilliant job and learn and change and adapt as you go and get it down pat that the thing you are creating or delivering, people just get so much value out of, that's when you start to raise your prices, because you know that you're doing something that makes an impact for people.
Yeah, absolutely. So how would you say that you measure your success?
If my stress levels are lower, if I feel happy, if I start to get agitated at home with the family, then I know that I've got too much going on at work.
Do you know what? I totally resonate with that, because I have absolutely found myself in the situation where I've got all this stuff swimming in my head, and my son will say something that is, that normally I wouldn't react to, and I'm just suddenly intensely irritated. Yes. And I think, hang on, that's not his fault at all. No. That is me. That's because I've got all this stuff. So I totally resonate with that. Mm-hmm. And how do you look after yourself?
Well, so I've had this foot problem for the last 8 weeks. So I can't really walk anywhere, which is just awful, because I would, before this happened, and it's how I got it, it's called plantar fasciitis for anyone who's interested in feet issues. But I would have got up early, about 6:30. I know a lot of people get much earlier than that. But about 6:30, I'm going out for literally, I call it a run. It's a really slow run. I would do about 3K in about 35 minutes. So that's really slow. But that was just my headspace and I loved it. And I can't do that at the minute, which is a bit of a pain. But I like to read, take time out, get out in the garden. I quite like going out in the morning with my coffee and checking how our wildflower patch is going. And just being aware of, it's really hard, I think, for women to kind of stop and kind of take stock of yourself and think, how do I actually feel? Because you're saying about how do I feel? When do I feel like I'm successful? It's that when I'm not stressed, but also when people that I've never met or heard of reach out to me and say, I want to work with you because I heard you're the person to work with on LinkedIn, or being invited to speak to an international women's group, or being invited, like yesterday I was invited as the guest expert for a content chat, Twitter chat from somebody I'd never heard of. That to me is success. That people are coming to me that I don't know about because somebody else has told them that I'm really good at what I do.
Yeah, brilliant. Word of mouth, amazingly powerful.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to our listeners to if they're looking to build a life-friendly business?
Oh my gosh. So quite often I think people don't realize that their skill set is probably the thing that they've been doing in their job. People might be in a job and think, oh, I hate this job. I want to get out of HR, or I want to get out of accountancy. And actually, when that is going to be the perfect thing to start a business around, something you already know a lot about. But in terms of a life-friendly business, try and restrict your time on social media, because you can spend waste a lot of time in online groups and on social media trying to keep up with everybody and everything. And you get to lunchtime and you're like, oh, I haven't done anything to actually earn any money today. I feel like I've been working, but you're just doing what they call busy work. You know, you're answering questions in Facebook groups, scheduling all your Instagram posts, and you've forgotten to actually go and do what's important, which is do something that's going to make you money in your business today, because then your business is going to keep growing and keep you as an entrepreneur. But it's not for everybody. That's the other thing. If you're finding entrepreneurship so hard, and wouldn't it be easier just to go back and do a part-time job so you can be there at the school gate to pick up your kids from primary school without like tearing your hair out and having to be on your phone answering Instagram DMs while your children are standing there looking at you going, Mummy, can we not go to the park and see the ducks? Maybe put it aside for a few years, or do what I did. I built up my social bee business. I stayed in my IT project manager job. I didn't give it up. I gave up the shop, but I stayed in the IT job for 2 years. So I got a salary from my employer. I left work at the end of the day, and I did the social media business in the evenings when the kids went to bed. And I found what worked for me. And doing an hour and a half at night after the kids went to bed, I managed it. It was fine, but I enjoyed it, Erin. That's the thing. If I hadn't enjoyed it, I wouldn't have kept going. I'd probably be still sitting in that job now. So make sure that the business that you create is something you actually really enjoy doing. So, not a job that somebody's told you, this is a brilliant opportunity, you should do this. And then you're kind of sitting there going, I'm not really sure that I want to do this. And build a network around you of people that you can get on I'm laughing because this is what you and I do. Get on Facebook Messenger and just send each other voice messages going, oh my God, what am I going to do about this? Or this person's really stressing me out. And have that little support network around you, because that's so important. That's what your cocoon is all about. It's about women supporting each other and having that backup, and other people going through the same thing as you is so vital. And try really hard to shut down your computer and leave your phone in the other room so you can chill out and watch TV or whatever it is you do in the evening without being distracted by all the calls in your time, because those messages and calls will still be there the next day, and you'll feel much better having taken a proper break.
Totally. Fantastic tips. 2 last things. One is, where can people find you?
I am louisebrogan.com is my website. LinkedIn with Louise is my podcast and my YouTube channel. And of course, come and connect with me on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/in/Louise Brogan. And if you do connect with me on LinkedIn, make sure you send a message and say why and how you found me. So we can actually have a conversation and a relationship on LinkedIn. so I know who you are. That'd be great.
Lovely. And so my last question to leave everyone with is, if you could go back in time and speak to Louise as she was launching a bricks and mortar shop with her third child bathed in arms, what would you say to her?
I would say, believe in yourself, have confidence in yourself, and see those people who try and tell you what you can or can't do. Take absolutely no notice of them. Build a supportive network around you of people who are going to help you and encourage you, and not people who try and tell you what to do.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing your story, Louise.
Oh, I had great fun, Erin. I probably talked way too much. I apologise.
No, it was all good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Life Friendly Business podcast, which is all about carving your own path and doing it at your own pace. But I know that's not easy to do. So to help you decide what a life-friendly business looks like for you and help you to stick to the boundaries and commitments needed to create that, I've created the Life Friendly Business Prescription. Download this free workbook and spend 30 to 60 minutes reflecting on what life-friendly means to you and the changes you may need to make in order to achieve the work-life balance you desire. Once you've made these decisions, you can add them to your own printable life-friendly business prescription that you can put on your wall to remind yourself that you have the power to design your very own life-friendly business. Download yours now at lifefriendlybusiness.com/prescription.